Sometimes before sunrise, we got joggers out in county parks or family rides for a picnic to set up, and Westchester's parks are already buzzing. There's mowers, there's guys working, sometimes there's folks checking the trail conditions, there's maintenance crews out there repair storm damage, and somewhere a team is planning for the next big improvement that most of us won't even notice, because that's the point. Today we're going to go behind the scenes to meet some of the people who keep our parks running. Welcome back to The Difference You Make, the podcast that brings you closer to the parks, people, and stories that make our county thrive. I'm your host. I'm the Executive Director of the Westchester Parks Foundation, Joe Stout, and today we're pulling back the curtain on the essential and often invisible work that keeps Westchester's parks beautiful, safe, and accessible. To help us understand how that all happens, I'm joined by the Westchester County Parks Commissioner, Kathy O'Connor. Welcome, Commissioner. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You oversee one of the largest and most diverse park systems in New York State, if not in the country. From beaches to nature preserves to historic sites. I'm excited to dig into what keeps that all running smoothly. Think you can tell me about that? I got some questions for you.
I'm sure you do.
So Westchester County manages thousands of acres of parkland,
Right.
At
18,000.
last count, it was 18,000, right? So for listeners who may not realize the scope, can you kind of paint a picture of the full scope of what the park system is? You know, number of parks, the facilities, annual visitors, some stats for them?
Sure. Some stats that we utilize, especially trying to get grants, et cetera, and great social media content. We have 18,000 acres. We have 51 facilities. And we have over 200 full-time and thousands during the summer, thousands of hourlies that keep our department clean, green, and growing. You ask what really keeps things happening. I believe we have spent a tremendous amount of time, money, effort in our staff. And I've always said our facilities are beautiful. Naturally, they're beautiful. With our capital improvements, they get better and better. But all of that wouldn't make any difference if our staff was not dedicated. And I truly believe, and I don't say this just because I'm the commissioner, I don't think there's really anybody that doesn't like their position. They're outside most of the time, other than bad weather, freezing cold or steaming hot. They take tremendous pride in what they do. And we really promote, I'd like to say I invented it, but I did not, but you wouldn't know that. Parks, Recreation, Conservation, PRC.
Well, I would know that.
Yeah, I know you would know that. I have to be careful in what I say I can do because you do know too much. But we also went with the acronym Performance, Respect, Commitment. And those are not just words, they are truly what we believe in. You perform your position your job duties every day. You don't have to like everybody, but you have to respect everybody in the positions that there are.
Something about the scale of the system that surprises even longtime residents that they may not know.
I think the scale is the fact that north of White Plains, even a little bit more north, our facilities up county, whether it be Hudson Hills, Mohansick Golf Course, or Mountain Lakes Camp, or Ward Pound Ridge, the fact that you can be in those facilities, Ward Pound Ridge is 4,300 acres. And if you were dropped in there, you could easily be in the Catskills and the Adirondacks, and you're still in Westchester County. You're basically 40 minutes from White Plains. A couple of years ago, and I like doing this, I took any of the Board of Legislators that were interested, I took them in a van, and I started at Mountain Lakes. And throughout the day, we went south, and we ended at Glen Island. They were flabbergasted at the breadth, the width and breadth and content of what we are responsible for.
So that leads me into the next part of my question is like, how does the diversity of parks, because you mentioned a couple of them, like you go from playland to nature, that's actually a nature preserve at playland, but you go from highly developed and active facility to acres and acres and acres of just open space and trails. Mm-hmm. So how does that shape the Parks Department's work?
Sure, and I think it's a testament to our separate divisions, Parks, the Recreation Division, and the Conservation Division. And I truly believe the Conservation Division has really taken off over the last few years in that they are doing way more public programming, not just nature hikes and walks and whatnot. But I think the diversity of the population in Westchester County is which came first, the diversity of the population or the diversity of our department. But I think the beautiful getting together is that there are people that do not want to go to Playland or do not want to go to Tibbetts or, in those highly dense areas. They want to go to Kitchewan. They want to go up in Mountain Lakes, and they want to just walk around. They don't want to hear the noise. We've had situations at Cranberry Lake Park, I'll never forget, Cranberry Lake Nature Preserve. Through budget situations, there were some possibilities years and years ago of not being able to open. And I got a letter from the president of one of the biggest hospitals in the city, who happened to live in Armonk, and he offered to pay the salary of the curator because he said what keeps him sane and grounded is being able to come home, put a pair of sneakers on, tell his wife where he's going, and head to Cranberry. Yep. And nobody talks to him, nobody bothers him, and he gets grounded.
So we talk about the values of parks all the time. At the Parks Foundation, that's one of our missions, is
Sure.
to make sure folks know. They may intrinsically know it, but our job is to kind of remind them why the parks are so important to their lives, and that's the mental health you can't put a price on what happens here. It's interesting when people think of parks, they only typically think of
a playground
or trails and in the woods, right? So but you guys have a lot of stuff, right? That you're responsible for, maintenance, safety, recreation programs, infrastructure, environmental stewardship. So what's a typical day look like for you guys across the county? Because it's different, right? It's different at Mountain Lakes and Ward Primary than it is at Saxon Woods or at Tibbettsburg Park.
Sure.
So
it's also seasonal, as you well know. And we don't close in the dead of winter. We might be plowing like this past winter. But the facilities that have beaches and pools attached to them have a little bit of a different scenario because they have to get those facilities up and running, ready for the season. Typical day, a lot of them start at 7 and basically work 7 to 3. They get time off for lunch and whatever, but the superintendents of each facility lay out, and we are very conscious of making sure that's clear, lay out a day's duty. It can be garbage. On a Monday following a big weekend,
sure.
Just the garbage detail is tremendous. General maintenance, who has become they don't just build things, they also fix everything. They've become a little bit of our emergencies crew too when we have a bad storm and trees are down, blocking important roadways. So there's a lot of maintenance, there's a lot of cleaning. Our superintendents have gotten even better and better at growing grass. And that sounds funny, but really better than anybody at Kensico, it used to be just a dust bowl. Right. And with the right staffing and some money gone into it, Dominic Angemi, as the superintendent there, people want to take him home because his flowers are so good. They want him to do in their own backyard. What really makes me happy is in a lot of our facilities, the public does take care. And we put up signage that say, they're your parks.
Sure.
Don't mess them up.
Sure. We've talked about it over the years. Is that if it looks like it's not taken care of or nobody cares, then the
Right.
patrons don't care. It's a personal question for you. Is how do you coordinate such a wide range of services across so many locations?
My immediate staff that works, directly under me, the directors and the first deputy, Peter Tartaglia, William Bland, deputy commissioner, they have divisions directly under them. And so we meet frequently. Sometimes we meet almost every day. The senior staff meets once a month, and we literally go over goals and objectives. And we're finishing it next week. And they took a lot of time and energy and effort into really a little bit of a wish list, but also practicality. What can be done with the money that we are allocated. But we also are determined by need. If we realize that something is not working correctly at a pool, at Kensico, at a golf course, we will zero in and try to fix it and make it better.
Those invisible things that happen that before a park opens, and what the man behind the camera, John Chapman, our director of sponsorship and content, who's back there, making sure that this gets done right. We talked about this in episode 1 of maybe going to behind the scenes of one of the parks and actually following one of your superintendents and your managers around for a little bit to see what they actually do
Sure.
that the public doesn't see. But if you can kind of like let our listeners and viewers know, what are some of those things that happen that they never see?
I hate to mention it, but our bathroom facilities are it's just like anything else. If you go to an expensive wedding, if the bathrooms are not done correctly, you're going to hear about it.
Can you talk a little bit about the Pride in Parks program?
Sure.
Because bathrooms is kind
Sure.
of generates that conversation about.
Yeah, since we had interesting one.
Clean,
Yeah.
or I think is clean.
Right.
Somebody else doesn't think is clean. So there's a standard that you use for your facilities.
Right, which Joe, when he was commissioner, established it. It's Pride in Parks. It's actually a person in our department, and this is probably the 4th person that's been doing it. They literally pick a park, they work with the commissioner, and we decide who you're going to critique, and they go out with their checklist, a very specific checklist, with percentages and markings and whatnot, and they do not really talk to anybody. They literally go through as public eyes, looking at things, looking at, if the signs are backwards, the bathrooms are clean. They actually go into the concession stands that we have at various facilities, and they give a grade. And in the very beginning, it was, you can imagine, the reaction was, IAB and we're the rat and, that kind of thing. It was a little bit negative, but the whole point was that then when we have our staff meeting, if I was in charge of Tibbetts and Tibbetts was critiqued, they brought Tibbetts in. And the point was not to embarrass anybody, not to point a finger, but to bring up any issue that might be helped by the fact that general maintenance is in the building, IT is in the meeting. So it was a chance for that particular staff person to get help. And certainly if there were problems, if the marks were not great, it was a chance to come back and get a better grade. I have to tell you, we've now been doing it well over 20 years. They still really worry about not getting a good grade, which is really amazing. And are very excited that one is always like 92%. So it's something that really, really keeps their feet to the fire.
Can you share a story that stuck with you of a time when your staff went above and beyond?
We all know the pandemic was just a horrible, scary, there are a million really sad stories. To be a little bit more positive, we never closed. The county executive at that time really asked us to keep going. So we had to rearrange our entire schedules because nobody could work a certain amount of time. I will never get over walking. I happened to be at Tibbetts, very, very, a lot of people that day, very crowded. And, we have 16-year-olds that are cleaning things. And they don't know who I am, so they weren't being good just because the commission was around. They had masks on, they had spray bottles, and they had antiseptic with them. They were cleaning garbage cans, tops of garbage cans. Every surface was being cleaned. And I kind of thought their own bedrooms probably looked like a wreck, but they realized how important it was, and we were getting throngs of people coming to our facilities. And I'd like to say, if there ever was a silver lining, and there really isn't, but the public came out because they didn't go to work. They didn't have anything else to do. And places like Kensico looked like we were having a festival. People put on their masks, put on sneakers, and walked. And for the first time in a long time, we were getting a lot of compliments from the public saying, thank you. I met my neighbor, and we walked at Kensico, we walked at Tibbetts, we walked at wherever, and I feel a little bit more normal. And that really resonated with me, that we hopefully saved lives.
So everybody thinks about first responders, and nobody really thinks about the fact that the park system in Westchester County, first off, was the only park system open.
Right.
None of the local, none of the state parks were open,
Right.
but Westchester County
Right.
parks were open. And your staff never stopped working.
No.
Just like EMS, just like police, just like fire, and nurses and doctors. but the folks that got celebrated, for the most part, they don't think about the Parks Department staff. I just think that's a microcosm of how dedicated that the Parks Department staff is. And they just switch a little bit here. Just talk a little bit about funding and public support and community partnerships.
Sure.
Because that's kind of like where we fit. So county funding obviously plays a huge role in keeping parks running. I mean, that's the job of the county is to operate the parks, improve them, and make sure that they're open and available and safe for everybody, right? But how does that investment that the county puts into translate into a visitor experience for the millions of people who come to our parks?
What you see is what you get. We pride ourselves in the fact that, and certainly when you were a commissioner, you did it. We do it. I've done it about 4 different times of late. That we're keeping our cost, especially the golf. Golf is our revenue. Our 6 courses are our revenue-generated facilities. And we put tremendous amount of money into it, the Board of Legislators and the county administration and our staff. I mean, we went from teeing off, bathroom mats to, top of the line. We have friends and family that play at Wingfoot or play at Westchester Hills, and they come back and say, wow, Maplemore is unbelievable. 267,000 rounds last year, and they're real round. Those are real numbers, obviously. Yeah, Wingfoot doesn't get 267 rounds, maybe in 5 years. So I think people are seeing Playland. If you walk around Playland now, our crew, the construction people, contractors have brought just the promenade back to what it was in 1930, 1928. So I think, and people are realizing it. They question money. Nobody wants to spend anything, but they're getting a good product, and we're very proud of that.
And I think as part of this, because this kind of goes into how do community groups and volunteers and organizations like the Parks Foundation, how do we complement that work? But I think that it's important to talk about those investments that the county makes.
Oh, absolutely.
In its park system, that it's not just an expense. There's a return on that investment, and it's not just soft and fuzzy stuff not that mental health and physical health is soft and fuzzy stuff, but there's direct economic benefits to the county spending that money in Westchester County with county contractors that goes back into the county's economy, that comes back to help support jobs, non-public sector jobs in the county, and reduce maintenance costs, keeping facilities up to snuff. It's an investment. It's not an
nice to have.
Yeah, it's not an expense.
And I think what's really important is the percentages and the information that just came out through the county census. There are 1,015,000 people, over a million,
right,
for the first time in ever, and in a time where there's so many other things going on. But I'd like to think a big part of it, and realtors have our pamphlets, school system and the park system are the things that sell houses.
The question is, how do friends groups and volunteer groups like the Parks Foundation, I know there's other ones, we are the largest,
umbrella.
And no, I don't like to use the word umbrella because we don't oversee.
Right, you're right. I'm sorry.
But we're we're the largest one, and we advocate for all the park systems,
right,
not the Tibbetsbrook Park Conservancy,
right,
or the Kensico Park. We try to do all of them where we're asked to help to do this. So how do we fit into this funding role of helping?
To speak about the other ones other than you, and I'll get to Parks Foundation in a second, we have realized that there are people that just love Lasden, or just love Playland, or just love Kensico. And so the people, they put together the friends groups, legit friends groups, and they have the ability to raise money specifically for that park. And we have countless examples. Up at Muscoot, Friends of Muscoot just paid for 2 ADA compliant hay wagons, which is fabulous, because if you ever saw, we were lifting people into them over the years, so now they actually can get in them. Things that the county budget doesn't allow for at this point, the friends groups do. The Parks Foundation, as we said, and I'm sorry, I know you're not the umbrella group, but you do work on all of our facilities as opposed to just one, and that makes a big difference. Financial, you've helped us pay for all our professional development. And once again, I think the most important aspect and most important thing that we have that I'm so proud of is our staff, because it doesn't matter what our facilities look like if our staff is not good and not dedicated, not trustworthy, getting into trouble, that kind of thing. So professional development, which the Parks Foundation pays for, is very, very important, including the conference that we do once a year. I would love to get back to PRC Academy. I thought that was one of the best things we ever did. Love to try to do that again. But the other side of everything that you do for us is the volunteer program, which has grown tremendously. I think it's interesting that one of the women that was in charge, he trained her, did whatever, and now she works for me. So I like that program.
So that's why we keep you away from our staff.
That's right. But my staff has finally realized that they're not there to be in the way, or they're not there to tell anybody. They're there to help. And they have done fabulous programming and cleanup and just really making our parks look better and better through the volunteer program. So thank you.
What do you got coming? What's coming this year, other than obviously the fact that you're retiring?
We're not talking about that right now. We're really looking forward to July 3rd again, which, thank you, you pay for. That's our annual Kensico Music Fest at Kensico, obviously, July 3rd, which is a Friday night. We've gotten 15 to 20,000 people in a good weather. Music, it is community 101, and, you know, knock on wood, thousands and thousands of people have been there, and I don't think we gave out a Band-Aid. And that doesn't just happen. And every ethnicity, every age group, every ADA, you name it, is there. Music, entertainment, eat, whatever. And then the fireworks, of course, are, I think, one of the best shows,
absolutely.
Because they reverberate off the dam. Nobody else has that.
Nobody else has the dam.
So
we say that all the time. Nobody else has the dam.
Something else I should talk about is July 19th, we were asked, Governor Hochul contacted the county executives administration and gave Kensico, wanted to do something at Kensico Dam for the final of the World Cup, which will be quite exciting. It's July 19th, Sunday. The game is at 3. They are coordinating it. We are providing the area. It'll be a giant screen and then 4 smaller screens. The biggest issue is parking. It's going to be, so we're utilizing WCC, which we did for Empire State Games in 2007. WCC and all the county parking around here that we own. It's a ticketed event. It's free, but it's a ticketed event, so we will know going into it how many, but they're talking probably about 13,000, 14,000 people.
Wow, that'd be great.
Pardon me?
That'd be great.
Oh, my goodness, it'll be amazing. In June, we have a couple of our biggest ethnic festivals there. Then July 3rd is the biggest event that we've been doing. The following weekend is the Italian Festival, which is big. And then following is, eventually it'll be July 19th. So Dominic will have his work cut out. Yeah, oh my goodness.
So
it's Westchester County Parks.
Westchester County NewYork.gov /parks.
Yes.
And you can find out information about the park system.
Right.
Putting in a plug for us, you can also find out some information about what happens in the park system through the WPF.org and info at Westchester Parks.
Just to finish on the last question that you asked me, I think the fact that we do 13, in this day and age, 13 ethnic festivals, and I go to all of them, and they are heavily populated.
Yeah, no,
and
they're fabulous.
And
programs.
they're free.
Yeah.
We do a lot for free.
So there's hundreds that you do. One of the niches that the Parks Foundation has gotten into is that we try to make the park system available to folks that can't. And one of the things we do is we raise money so you can do free programs.
Right.
So we're very proud of the fact that there's a lot of free programs as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Commissioner, thank you for your time today. Thank you for coming and sharing.
Thank you for
a little
having
bit
me.
behind the scenes. I hope folks who are listening and watching that this conversation reminds you that parks don't just happen. They're built, they're maintained, they're protected by people who deeply care about the county and the park
sure.
system. The next time you walk on a trail or you enjoy a clean picnic area, you are experiencing the result of thousands of hours of work, much of it invisible, but absolutely essential. And a shout out to the Parks Department staff, because they are the real heroes here for keeping it safe. If you enjoyed this episode, take a moment to appreciate the scale of the work that keeps our parks running. Learn more about how public funding and community support work together. Consider getting involved with the Westchester Parks Foundation to help strengthen the future of our parks. Please subscribe to our podcast, The Difference You Make. You can find out information at thewpf.org. Please send us your suggestions of what you'd like to hear or see at info@thewpf.org, and we'll see you next time for episode 3.